3. I will talk of the things which were in my own way, but you will understand. I will begin at the beginning, and tell of myself and the woman, and, after that, of the man. He of the otterskins drew over to the stove, as do men who have been deprived of fire and are afraid the Promethean gift may vanish at any moment. Malamute Kid picked up the slush lamp and placed it so its light might fall upon the face of the narrator. Prince slid his body over the edge of the bunk and joined them. I am Nas, a chief and the son of a chief, born between a sunset and a rising on the dark seas in my father's Umnyak. All of a night the men toiled at the paddles, and the women cast out the waves which threw in upon us, and we fought with the storm. The salt spray froze upon my mother's breast, till her breath passed with the passing of the tide. But I raised my voice with the wind and the storm, and lived. We dwelt in Akatan. Where? Asked Malamute Kid. Akatan, which is in the Aleutians. Akatan, beyond Shignik, beyond Kardalak, beyond Unimask. As I say, we dwelt in Akatan, which lies in the midst of the sea on the edge of the world. We farmed the sea salt seas for the fish, the seal, and the otter, and our homes shouldered about one another on rocky strip between the rim of the forest and the yellow beach where our kayaks lay. We were not many, and the world was very small. There were strange lands to the east, islands like Akatan, so we thought all the world was islands, and did not mind. I was different from my people. In the sands of the beach were the crooked timbers and wave-warped planks of a boat, such as my people never built, and I remember on the point of the island which overlooked the ocean 3 ways there stood a pine tree which never grew there, smooth and straight and tall. It is said the 2 men came to that spot, turnabout though many did through many days, and watched with the passing of the light. These 2 men came out from the sea in the boat, which lay in pieces on the beach, and they were white like you, and weak as little children, when the seal have gone away and the hunters came home empty. I know of these things from the old man and the old women, who got them from their fathers and mothers before them. These strange white men did not take kindly to our ways at first, but they grew strong, what of the fish and the oil, and fierce. And they built them each his own house, and took the pick of our women, and in time children came. Thus he was born who was to become the father of my father's father. As I said, I was different from my people, for I carried the strong, strange blood of this white man who came out of the sea. It is said we had other laws in the days before these men, but they were fierce and quarrelsome, and fought with our men till there was no more left who dared to fight. Then they made themselves chiefs, and took away our old laws, and gave us new ones, insomuch that the man who was the son of his father, and not his mother, as was our way had been. They also ruled that the son, firstborn, should have all things which were his father's before him, and that the brothers and sisters should shift for themselves. And they gave us other laws. They showed us new ways in the catching of fish and the killing of bear, which were thick in the woods, and they taught us to lay by bigger stores for the time of famine. These things were good. But when they had become chiefs, and there was no more men to face their anger, they fought, these strange white men, each with the other. And the one whose blood I carry drove his seal spear the length of an arm through the other's body. Their children took up the fight, and their children's children, and there was great hatred between them, and black doings, even to my time, so that in each family but one lived to pass down the blood of them that had went before. Of my blood I was alone. Of the other man's there was but a girl, Unga, who lived with her mother. Her father and my father did not come back from the fishing one night, but afterwards they washed up to the beach on the big tides, and they held very close to each other. The people wondered, because of the hatred between the houses, and the old men shook their heads and said the fight would go on when children were born to her and children to me. They told me this as a boy, till I came to believe, and to look upon Unga as a foe, who was to be the mother of children which were to fight with mine. I thought of these things day by day, and when I grew to stripling, I came to ask why this should be so. And they answered, "We do not know, but that in such way your fathers did." And I marveled that those which were to come should fight the battles of those which were gone, and in it I could see no right, but the people said it must be, and I was only a stripling. And they said I must hurry, that my blood might be the older and grow stronger before hers. This was easy, for I was headman, and the people looked up to me because of the deeds and the laws of my fathers, and the wealth which was mine. Any maiden would come to me, but I found none to my liking. And the old men and mothers of the maidens told me to hurry, for even then were the hunters biding high to the mother of Unga, and should her children grow strong before mine, mine would surely die. Nor did I find a maiden till one night coming back from the fishing. The sunlight was lying so low and full in the eyes, the wind free, and the kayaks racing with the white seas. Of a sudden the kayak of Unga came driving past me, and she looked upon me, so with her black hair flying like a cloud of night, and the spray wet on her cheek. As I say, the sunlight was full in the eyes, and I was a stripling, but somehow it was all clear, and I knew it to be the call of kind to kind. As she whipped ahead, she looked back within the space of 2 strokes, looked as only the woman Unga could look, and again I knew it was a call of kind. The people shouted as we ripped past the lazy umiaks and left them far behind. But she was quick at the paddle, and my heart was like the belly of a sail, and I did not gain. The wind freshened, the sea whitened, and leaping like the seals on the windward breaches, we roared down the golden pathway of the sun. Nas was crouched half out of his stool, in the attitude of one driving a paddle, as he ran the race anew. Somewhere across the stove he beheld the tossing kayak and the flying hair of Unga. The voice of the wind was in his ears, and its salt beat fresh upon his nostrils. But she made the shore, and ran up the sand, laughing, to the house of her mother. And a great thought came to me that night, a thought worthy of him that was chief over all the people of Akatan. So, when the moon was up, I went down to the house of her mother, and looked upon the goods of Yashnush, which were piled by the door. The goods of Yashnush, a strong hunter who had it in mind to be the father of the children of Unga. Other young men had piled their goods there, and taken them away again, and each young man had made a pile greater than the one before. And I laughed to the moon and the stars, and went to my own house where my wealth was stored, and many trips I made, till my pile was greater by the fingers of one hand than the pile of Yashnush. There were fish dried in the sun and smoked, and 40 hides of the hare seal, and half as many of the fur, and each hide was tied at the mouth and big-bellied with oil, and 10 skins of bear which I killed in the woods when they came out in the spring. And there were beads and blankets and scarlet cloths, such as I had got in trade from the people who lived to the east, and who got them in trade from the people who lived still beyond the east. And I looked upon the piles of Yashnush and laughed, for I was head man in Akatan, and my wealth was greater than the wealth of all my young men, and my father had done deeds, and given laws, and put their names for all time in the mouths of people. So when morning came, I went down to the beach, casting out of the corner of my eye at the house of the mother of Unga. My offer yet stood untouched. And the women smiled and said sly things to one another. I wondered, for never had such a price been offered, and that night I added more to the pile, and put beside it a kayak of well-tanned skins, which never yet had swam in the sea. But in the day it was yet there, open to the laughter of all men. The mother of Unga was crafty, and I grew angry at the shame in which I had stood before my people. So that night I added till it became a great pile, and I hauled up my umiak, which was of the value of 20 kayaks, and in the morning there was no pile. Then I made preparation for the wedding, and the people that lived even to the east came for the food of the feast and the potlatch token. Unga was older than I by the age of 4 sons by the way we reckoned the years. I was only a stripling, but then I was a chief, and a son of a chief, and it did not matter. But a ship shoved her sails above the floor of the ocean, and grew larger with the breath of the wind. From her scuppers she ran clear water, and the men were in haste and worked hard at the pumps. On the bow stood a mighty man, watching the depths of the water and giving commands with a voice of thunder. His eyes were of the pale blue of deep waters, and his head was maned like that of a sea lion, and his hair was yellow like the straw of a southern harvest, or the Manila rope yarns which sailormen plait. Of late years we had seen ships from afar, but this was the first to come to the beach of Akatan. The feast was broken, and the women and children fled to the houses, while we men strung our bows and waited with spears in hand. But when the ships foremost smelled the beach, the strange men took no notice of us, being busy with their own work. With the falling of the tide, they careened the schooner and patched a great hole in her bottom. So the women crept back, and the feast went on. When the tide rose, the sea wanderers kedged the schooner to deep water, and then came back among us. They bore presents and were friendly, so I made room for them, and out of the largest of my heart gave them tokens such as I gave all the guests. For it was my wedding day, and I was head man in Akatan. He with the mane of the sea lion was there, so tall and strong that one looked to see the earth shake with the fall of his feet. He looked much and straight at Unga with his arms folded, and stayed till the sun went away and the stars came out. Then he went down to his ship. After that I took Unga by the hand and led her to my own house. There was singing and great laughter, and the women said sly things, after the manner of women at such times. But we did not care. Then the people left us alone and went home.